Good day everyone! Today I will discuss to you the 3 chapters in the book in Sustainable Tourism. So first, let me introduce myself. I am Blessedin F. Bispo, 4th year Block 1. And without further ado, let's begin to the Sustainable Tourism in Chapter 1. So what is Sustainable Tourism? So sustainable tourism refers to a model of tourism that aims to minimize its negative impacts on the environment, local communities, and cultures, while maximizing its positive contribution to these areas. So it seeks to balance economic growth, environmental health, and social equity to ensure that tourism can be maintained over the long term without degrading the resources it relies on. So as a tourism student, we know the sustainable tourism is important because in terms of positive or in terms of nakukuha natin or napapakinabangan natin ito in a positive way. So while nararanasan natin ang positive impact nito, we need na magkaroon tayo ng pagbibigay importansya kung paano mapangalagaan ito in terms of social, culture, and economy. So, like example, the kapaligiran, kailangan nating mapangalagaan. We need na maging balance ito. And here are the 6 principles of sustainable tourism. So first, we have the environmental responsibility. This involves minimizing pollution, conserving natural resources, protecting wildlife and natural habitats, and reducing the carbon footprint of tourism activities. So it is important to know the limits and the good na kung paano nating magawa ng paraan ang pangangalaga ng environmental or ng environment. So we need to practice including using renewable energy sources, promoting eco-friendly transportation, and reducing waste through recycling and sustainable consumption. So in terms of eco-friendly transportation, the example is the e-bike. Familiar naman tayo sa sasakyan na ito dahil mas maganda na ito ay walang usok, so hindi siya nakaka-add up sa air pollution. And the second one is the social and cultural respect. Sustainable tourism emphasizes respecting and preserving the cultural heritage of local communities. So this includes promoting cultural exchange, supporting local traditions, and ensuring that tourism activities do not exploit local population. It also involves providing fair wages and working conditions for people employed in the tourism industries. So, napakahalaga rin ang pagkakaroon ng pagrespeto kahit na mababa ang status ng empleyado. So, maging fair. The third is the economic viability. Sustainable tourism aims to contribute to the economic well-being of local communities by creating jobs, supporting local businesses, and ensuring that a fair share of the economic benefits of tourism stays within the community. So this might involve promoting locally owned accommodations, restaurants, and tour operators. Sabi nga sa sumisikat ngayon sa TikTok videos, piliin mo ang Pilipinas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas, pero mas dapat mas mahalin natin yung sariling likha natin. Like example, the tourist spots, the tourist operators, the restaurants, or the local owned accommodations. And fourth, let's proceed to the fourth. Community participation and empowerment. Engaging local communities in the planning and decision-making processes related to the tourism is crucial. So this helps ensure that tourism development meets the needs and desire of the local population and that the benefits of the tourism are distributed equitably. And next one is the education and awareness. So promoting awareness among tourists about sustainable practices and encouraging responsible behavior is the key. So this includes educating travelers about local customs and environmental issues, and encouraging them to engage in respectful and environmentally friendly behaviors. And the last one is the long-term planning. Sustainable tourism requires strategic planning to ensure that tourism development is well managed and sustainable over the long term. So this involves considering the carrying capacity of destinations, promoting off-seasons, tourism to reduce pressure on popular sites, and investing in infrastructure that supports sustainable practices. So now let's proceed. Here, the examples of sustainable tourism practices. The eco lodges, accommodations that are designed to have minimal impacts on the environment. It often uses renewable energy sources and sustainable materials. And the community-based tourism, so tourism initiatives that are owned and managed by local communities, of course providing a direct economic benefits to residents. And the wildlife conservation tours that contribute to the protection of education and volunteer opportunities. And the last one is the green certification programs that certify hotels, tour operators, and other tourism-related businesses for meeting specific sustainability criteria. So overall, sustainable tourism aims to create positive experiences for both travelers and the host communities, while protecting the environment for future generations. So sustainable tourism is a holistic approach aimed at minimizing the negative impacts of tourism on the environment. So local communities and culture, while maximizing its positive contributions, is the key. So and that's all for the chapter 1, and now let's proceed to the chapter 2. For the continuation, let's proceed to the chapter 2. Chapter 2 is definition, dimension, and determinants of tourism impacts. So for the introduction, to develop tourism in sustainable manner requires an understanding of the possible impacts of tourism. So these are impacts occur at the economic, environmental, and social dimensions and are influenced by several factors. So the first one is definition of tourism impacts. Tourism impacts may be defined as an effect brought about by directly or indirectly by tourism policies, tourism-related establishment and infrastructure, and tourists' behavior. Tourism impacts may be categorized of the scope, the direction of change and type of impact, and the scale, distribution, and duration of the effects. So this scope of tourism impacts may be economic, environmental, social, cultural, and political. So the impacts are seldom unidimensional. A focus on tourism may make governments overzealous in protecting nature at the expense of indigenous people. So creating a conflict between environmental and cultural concerns. So these are the types of impacts in many ways. The first one is actual, objective, the perceived, subjective, quantitative, and qualitative, direct and indirect. So, of course, we are familiar in quantitative and qualitative. So direct and indirect. And the tourism impacts may also be seen in terms of temporal dimension. So what these are? The cumulative, immediate, long-term, and short-term. And in tourism impacts in terms of distributing among stakeholders or geographical coverage, most of the income is sold to accrue mostly to only the local elites. And second one is poor people are not able to take advantage of the opportunities, of course. And tourism impacts will also be felt of varying levels in the different areas where tourism activity could take place. In Lelper's tourism attraction system model, identified this as A. Tourist generation region, B. The transit route region, the last one is the tourist destination region. So the tourism is induced impacts may be reversible or irreversible. The impacts from tourism may have a chain reaction or just an isolated effect. So these are the level of development of tourism industry. So the more developed the tourism industry, the more the destination stands to gain economically from tourism. And the second one is the Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index, the TTCI of the World Economic Forum, is a measure of the level of tourism development in a country. The TTCI is based on 4 broad sub-indices with a total of 14 pillars components. And the last one is, one assumption is that countries which score highly on the TTCI are also likely attract more tourists and thus gain economic benefits. So, the level development of the tourism industry is a similar framework for assessing a place potential for tourism in the ACE framework suggested by Cruz 2009. So we have here 10. First is access, accommodation, activities, attraction, amenities, atmosphere, attitude, administrations, assistance, and awareness. The strength of the economy and linkages. The net economic impact of tourism depends on the proportion of income that is retained in the local economy. So what is leakage? It happens when we import products or pay for expatriate or expertise. So how do we minimize leakage? So we minimize this in buy local products and managerial services. So next is the stakeholders, power and capacity. One of the key issues in tourism development is the extent by which the benefits and opportunities are shared by the stakeholders. So social representation refers to the way people contract knowledge about tourism and its impacts. And the last one is social representation theory. Holds that where there is limited knowledge of tourism, a destination community must either develop its own social representation of tourism or adopt an existing one. So we have more pala ng stakeholders power. We have 5, and the last 2 is the environmental discrimination is the result of and process by which environmental policies create intended or unintended consequences, especially those which have disproportionate impacts on individuals, population or communities, minority population or races, women and lower income groups. And the last one is environmental racism. Any policies, practices or practice or directive that differentially affects or disadvantages, whether intended or unintended, individuals, group, or communities based on race or colors. Tourism policy as embodied in Republic Acts, presidential decrees, or local ordinances. So it defines the country's prioritization of tourism in relation to overall development strategy and spell out the objects of tourism development and the key strategies for attaining them. So tourism volume, density or ratio. Tourism density, so it refers to the number of tourists at the given time in relation to the area of the destination. So ito is yung bilang ng turismo sa binigay na oras sa area or sa destination. And the tourism ratio, it refers to the volume of tourists in relation to the local population. So, kung gaano kataas ang local population. And now let's move to tourist market served. The tourist market served determine the kind of impacts that are exerted on the host destination as well as those experienced by the tourists themselves. And institutionalized tourists, organized mass tourists, individual mass tourists. So they have two types or two. And the last is non-institutionalized tourists, the explorers and the drifters. The Canadian Tourism Commission categorizes people by their explored quotient. EQ breaks down markets into 9 psychographic groups called explorer types. So and next one is demonstration effect, is how the behavior of people is influenced by observing and imitating the actions of tourists. And now let's proceed in technology. Noise and greenhouse gas emissions from aircraft, which is the primary mode of long-haul travel, have been significantly reduced with the development of the newest generation of aircraft. And water pollution may be abated by the installing wastewater treatment facility. And the tourist resort may install solar panels to reduce their reliance on commercial electricity. So what is tourism carrying capacity? The level of human activity an area can accommodate without their area deteriorating, the resident community being adversely affected, or quality of visitor experience. Declining Middleton and Hawkins, 1998. The maximum number of people that may visit a tourist destination at the same time without causing destruction of the physical, economic, socio-cultural environment and an unacceptable decrease. And the last but not the least, the other factors beside the factors mentioned, Ryan 2003 added the emergence of bureaucrats, the rise of unlivable industrial cities which drove people to escape the physical crowding of the cities, and the women's liberation as driving forces for tourism development. For the continuation of our discussion, now let's proceed to the chapter 3, the tourism impacts on the environment. Now let's begin in the environment. So we tackle the concept. The scope of the concept of environment covers the following aspects, says Swarbrook, 1999. The first one is natural environment. We discuss also the wildlife, tree farms, built environment, natural resources, weather or climate, and last is the natural phenomenon. In this topic, we have two major types of ecosystem. The first one is terrestrial ecosystem. Letter A, forest ecosystem, abundance in flora and fauna in relatively small space or where the density of living organism is quite high. B, desert ecosystem are located in regions that receive an annual rainfall less than 25 inches. And last is the grasslands located in tropical and temperate regions, and the main plants are grasses, plants, and legumes. The second type of major ecosystem is the aquatic ecosystem. Letter A, marine ecosystem. Could be oceanic profundal, intertidal estuaries, and coral reef, salt marshes, and hydrothermal vents. Letter B, freshwater ecosystem. Three basic kinds of freshwater ecosystem are lentic, slow-moving, or still water, such as lakes, ponds, lotic, fast-moving, such as streams and rivers, and wetlands in which the soil is saturated for a lengthy period of time, like the Dingalan. And now let's proceed to the causes of impacts. First one is the tourist behavior, construction, the quality of infrastructure, dynamics between tourism's support and demand, design of facilities and infrastructure, seating, violation of tourism development, guidelines by developers, and ineffective law enforcement. And now let's proceed to negative impacts on the environment. The land degradation, wastes, pollution, climate change, water stress, habitat fragmentation, animal species extinction, impacts on coral reefs, and beach encroachments and crowding. So we're familiar in the impacts on coral reefs na kailangan mapangalagaan yung species ng mga coral reefs sa mga dagat. And ang beach, like nung pag-open ng Boracay, isang halimbawa doon ng naging overcrowding ito na nakaka-apekto din sa natural resources and beauty of the destinations. And here we have another negative impacts on the environment. Also, the land degradation, the temporary or permanent lowering of production capacity of land. And the tourism can contribute to the land degradation through urban sprawl caused by migration, build-up of non-biodegradable trash, loss of biodiversity through hunting, animal migration caused by human interference, consumption of animal food products, quarrying to flatter mountain, coastal land degradation. So we are now familiar as human, the wastes. As we said, the lack of facilities such as trash bins. So kakulangan ng pagkakaroon ng basurahan o ng lagayan ng tapunan ng mga basura. Biodegradable wastes, gray water from bathing and swimming pools, human waste, sewage, sludge, coffee waste, water. Solid waste product that are not disposed of properly in designated areas turned into litter. Like the MOA Arena Sea. Diba nung time na madumi yung dagat doon sa MOA, hindi siya kaaya-aya, mabaho na nga, mapangit pa at madumi. And after the renovation of Pangulong Duterte, na napaganda niya at naayos niya yung destination sa MOA, which is the dagat sa gilid, tinanggal yung mga litter, yung mga solid waste products, plastics, ganyan. Mas naging kaaya-aya at mas naging healthy na dati kulang yung mga living, mga fish, natural life ng fishes is naging okay. So dati wala doong mga isda, ngayon nagkaroon dahil nga nalinis na yung tubig dagat. And another negative is pollution. Major forms of pollution are air, water, light, visual, and noise pollution. In terms of climate change, with increase of leisure activity, tourism industry will be contributing more to global greenhouse gas GHG emissions 2035. Tourism's contribution to climate change will have grown considerably. So, also the water stress. Water scarcity is attributed partly to tourist-generated pollution. Unregulated tourism development and population growth and fluctuation during tourism high season. And another one is habitat fragmentation. It's frequently caused by humans when native vegetation is cleared from human activities, which includes construction of them parks, resorts, hotels, and also the airports. Endemic organisms are most affected by habitat destruction because such as organisms have very specific requirements. So for their survival that can only be found within a certain ecosystem. And another one is animal species extinction. Tourism can contribute to the extinction of animal in a number of ways. One is by offering animal products as food. Commercial hunting of wild animals, exposure to wild animals increases the risk of transmission of diseases. Invasive species of plants and animals can be introduced into an area via tourist transport like ships and luggage. Another one is the tourism impacts to coral reefs. Physical damage such as breakage and lesions may be caused by action by snorkelers and scuba divers. So, minsan, di ba nauuso ngayon yung mga scuba divers? So, pagka sumisisid sila sa ilalim, hindi maiwasan talaga na matuwa. So, ako din, if ever mabibigyan ako ng pagkakataon na mag-dive ako, hindi ko rin minsan, aminado ko, hindi ako may iwasan minsan na pwede kong mahawakan yun kasi gusto kong makita. And without knowing na pwedeng masira pala yung species ng ng coral reefs. So, it affects the negative. It affects us negative impacts. So, tourists who collect shell corals, and resort development, toxic substances leach to water. So, about the resort development, ayoko na rin pong pangalanan yung, di ba nagkaroon po ng issue na may natural resources, nagkaroon ng pagpapatayo ng infrastructure ng resort, which is yun ay bundok at natural resources. Magandang tourist destination. Pero, sa iba siguro, negative sa kanila yon, sa mga hindi knowledgeable masyado sa topic na yun. Pero for me, para sa ating tourism students and department, napakalaking negative impact niya sa natural resources. Na nasira yung ganda ng bundok o yung pagiging natural ng place. So, nalagyan ng resort. And let's proceed to beach encroachments and crowding. An impact that has been observed in Boracay was beach encroachments by resort owners, obtained by beach setbacks that got smaller and smaller over the years. So, as we know, overcrowded is not good. Also, we love go to beaches like Boracay. Siguro, di ba, nakakabawas din ng peace. Pag gusto mong mag-relax, vacation, pupunta ka sa beach tapos makikita mong crowding. So, it affects a negative. As we said, as we can see, it negative impacts on the environment. And let's proceed to the positive impacts on the environment. Environmental quality and infrastructure improvement, species regeneration, So, environmental quality and infrastructure improvement. Tourism can provide the incentive to develop land commercial development. Abandoned mines are converted into tourism-oriented facilities, such as a gold course. So, infrastructure improvements such as airports, seaports, expressways, and nautical highway system. So, in species regeneration, infrastructure built for travel and tourism could actually be designed to enhance or create habitats for animals. And that's all for this topic. Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Again, let me introduce myself. I am Leslyn F. Bispo from PS Tourism, 4th year Block 1. Good night and God bless.